Hello everybody and welcome to the Stryfield Business Commission Weekly Spotlight. Today we're spotlighting Almon Travel. Danny Almon, the owner, is here with us today. Welcome, Danny.
Thanks, Bruce. Pleasure to be here.
Nice to have you. Nice to have you. And we're going to talk to Danny about the travel these days. And it's been in a flux for the last few years, of course, so I suspect that's affected your business. I know it's affected everybody's travel. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, how it's recovering and those kinds of things. But just before we do that, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and that kind of stuff.
Well, Bruce, I've been in business now for almost 20 years. I started at the company Almon Travel 2 years before I retired from teaching high school at Queen Elizabeth High School. It's been an enormous learning curve, but after 20 years, I've gotten through most very odd situations you could possibly come up with.
I can well imagine after over 20 years.
Yeah, so I've experienced problems and how to deal with them since that time. So as I said, it was a learning curve. Had to take an awful lot of courses, and one of the other things that was particularly important to me was the ability to be able to travel as much as we could and experience the places that we wanted to sell. So, and as a travel agent, people say it's great to be able to travel, but there is work involved. If we go down to Mexico, for example, we build in visits to half a dozen resorts down there, and go get guided around, and they show us all of the places that we really need to know about. So if we're planning a destination wedding, or a family vacation, or an adults only vacation, so yeah, visit as best we can. Yeah, we get into different aspects of travel. We've learned about travel insurance and how important that is. And I think the most important thing is to experience what we sell. That's the big aim.
Yeah, it is, because we started traveling, myself and Faye, my wife, have started traveling in recent years, and it can be so important. I don't think people realize how important it is to use an agent, a travel agent, that knows the destinations. Because you can be awful disappointed. Sometimes you'll look online and see, and then when you get there, that's not what it was purported to be on the online videos. Right?
That's photoshopping.
Yeah,
at its very best. Yeah. And having said that, to be candid, resorts decay down in those kinds of weather conditions, and if I see it a year ago or 2 years ago and it was great back then, if they haven't spent any money refurbishing it, then you're going to have probably some concerns. So,
yeah, and you would have no way of knowing that. Like the average person who's just booking a vacation would have no way of knowing, because those pictures that they're showing are probably from many years ago when the resort was first built, or they're certainly not showing the defects in those resorts. But if an agent has been there recently, they can certainly steer you in a direction and say, well, that's okay if you really want it, but I was there, 6 months ago or a year ago, and I can tell you that it hasn't changed. There are some issues with it, and so I think that's one of the benefits.
Well, certainly for us, we used to, we're heavily into destination weddings. We did 130 of those over the past, 10 years or so. When we'd go down, we would, take the guide, have the guide take us around, but we'd go to a destination location, and I would take pictures from all angles. So the version on the website, the resort website, is taken from the best possible camera angle. I'm taking it from the beach, looking at the fence that's in the background and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's very important to be able to talk to clients about that sort of thing.
Now, do you try to sell certain locations like Caribbean, Florida? Do you specialize in any particular area?
Yeah, it's again, the first couple of years it was a question of what did we want to specialize. We tried to be all things to all people, and couldn't do a very good job of that, just because there's so much to learn. So we have narrowed our focus down to a certain degree over the years. As I say, destination weddings, 130 of those. We also focus on river cruises, which is a big part of our business. We've been on 10 different river cruise itineraries around the world. and have loved all of them. But one of the things we've learned is that there are quite significant differences among the river cruise itineraries. So we've learned that, and we're able to advise people if they want an active river cruise, for example, then this is the location you should go to. If you want a fairly quiet, then this is a location you should go to. So
right.
Again, learn from experience.
Are there many providers, river cruise providers?
Yes. Well, and this is one of the things that I learned about over COVID, where I had absolutely no business and some time to to twiddle my thumbs with. I ran a number of presentations with 50 different tour operators, and specifically there were about 8 or 9 river cruise companies.
Wow.
Now, the ones that we typically deal with are well-known, Viking, AMA Waterways, and that sort of thing. But there were several that we learned about that certainly meet needs in certain niches. So it was great to be able to do those presentations and to learn about these other different companies.
Right. And what's the difference in price for river cruises? Does it vary very much?
Yeah, well, your mainstream, your Viking, your AMA, I was just pricing something out for clients just the other day, and they came in with no idea of what costs were. So I said, well, if you're going to do extensions before and after your cruise at the embarkation and disembarkation ports, you're looking at a couple of $3,000, depending upon length of stay. Your river cruise will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000 to $6,000, depending on whether you're going with a 4-star or a 5-star river cruise. And the difference between them is 4-star will give you almost everything, 5-star includes everything. So and then you have your airfare, and what we're discovering, of course, over the last 6-7 months is that airfare has gone up.
Airfare on top of the
river cruise, yes, yeah. So I had sent them a suggestion that they should look at about $10,000 per person for a river cruise, yeah.
Wow.
Now, having said that, they came back and said, no, that's more than we're prepared to spend. So we kind of worked around with a couple of different suppliers, and we were able to come up with a price that was about probably $3,000 to $4,000 less per person. They gave up some options, but they were able to keep the river cruise. So, yeah, it's an expensive trip, but the excursions are all included. So,
yeah, and that's big. That's another thing that we should probably talk a little bit about, is that all-inclusive versus just the airfare and hotel, right? Because when you're quickly find out that the all-inclusive, if you're not getting an all-inclusive, then you got to remember meals.
Yeah.
What are you going to do while you're there? Are there any excursions, included in the all-inclusive?
Yeah.
Oftentimes there are.
Yeah.
And sometimes, but if you're not going with an all-inclusive, then you're paying, it could be anywhere from $100 to $300 US, depending on the excursion you choose, right?
Yeah, a day. And when you talk all-inclusive, you could talk about cruises, river cruises, ocean cruises, resorts. And everybody's familiar with the resort all-inclusives, which include your alcohol, your food. If you want to go off resort, it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
But if you stay on the resort, then generally speaking, you're not going to pay any more. Ocean cruise, I did a UK ocean cruise that was about 12 days, went around Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and England. And the cruise itself was about $1,050 for a 12 day. We more than doubled that with the cost of the excursions that we added. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, more than doubled.
Yeah.
I think it was probably about $1,200 for excursions. So
and the airfare on top of that?
Airfare on top of that, yeah.
And what was the airfare?
I think in that case, it was about 5 years ago, it was about $1,200 to fly from there to
back.
England, and back,
So $1,200 plus $1,050,
yeah,
plus $1,000. Still, that's not bad for.
Not bad, because you have your meals included with that. You
Yeah.
have your drinks included with that,
Yeah.
or with the meals.
Yeah.
So and entertainment at night. They usually have whether regardless of where you are, ocean cruise or resort, you're going to have entertainment that will be included.
Yeah.
River cruises not so much.
A little funny side story about river cruise. A friend of mine, I won't say who it was, just went on a river cruise.
Yeah.
And they called him a few days before he was about to, fly over to get on the cruise. And they said, "We're sorry, but we have to put you on a different boat." And he said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because the river's so low, we can't take you on the regular boat. That we got to use a smaller boat because the river's so low." I thought that was interesting. So that's just a climate change thing, right?
Well, no, not even necessarily
No?
climate change, Bruce. If in the spring, where you have a fair bit of rain, as we do here, and during the late summer, things are very dry. You have two problems, potential problems with river cruises. Is if it's too dry, the water levels are low. If it's too rainy, the boats can't get under the bridges.
Oh, right.
So, what you deal with if you want to do a spring or a late summer river cruise, you want to deal with a cruise company that has lots of boats on the river, because they come to that stopping point. There's usually a boat on the other side. They then transfer everybody from one boat to the other, and they just reverse and go their own way.
Oh, right. Yes.
So if you only have 3 or 4 boats on the river during those times of year, that can be a problem.
Yeah. So those are intricacies that you wouldn't know from. If you were using an agent, the agent could probably warn you that if you're going at that particular time of year. If you were booking direct, you're not going to know that.
No, you probably aren't. If you're booking online, you're probably not going to know that. I mean, that's an agent's duty to warn you about that.
Yeah.
Same as if you're going to a resort anytime between June and the end of November. Hurricane season is something you have to be concerned about. So. So an agent that's worth his or her salt is going to be upfront and warn you about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you just take that into consideration, because a hurricane could damage your vacation by one day, maybe.
Yeah.
Most times it's through. I've been through hurricanes down at resorts, and it's one day of horrific weather, and then it's cleaning up afterwards.
Yeah.
So
They're used to it a lot, unless it's a real severe one.
Yes. Yeah.
But they get them all the time.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the Caribbean. Are you familiar? How much time have you spent in the Caribbean? Is that one of your specialties?
Oh yes, it is. Yeah. And when you talk Caribbean, you're talking two different aspects of the Caribbean. We've done 3 Caribbean cruises: Eastern, Southern, and Western Caribbean. So we're very familiar with that. Now you can't get to every port that every cruise ship offers, but you get a pretty good sense of what's going on there. And of course, Caribbean, as far as resorts is concerned, we have made it our purpose to get down to all of the popular areas. And when we were there, it's not usually a vacation. It's 7 days or 10 days. We're relaxing with umbrella drinks maybe 2 days, and then we're out looking at resorts and checking things out. So we can bring that back to our clients.
There's a lot of them there.
They're Cancun and Mexico, I think there are over 240 there now, something like that. So,
And you consider that Mexico part of the Caribbean?
Well, we usually refer to it, same as Cuba is considered to be part of the Caribbean, but it's not really.
Yeah.
So,
I like the Mexico resorts myself. There are some other islands, Caribbean islands, that we've been to that we enjoy, but the Mexico, we go there a fair bit. The prices are usually pretty good, and the food I find is good. So it's
good quality resorts there for sure. Just a question of picking the one that suits you. And typically, Bruce, what I'll do is, if you were looking for a vacation down in Mexico and you were asking me to look for you, I'd spend 20 minutes to a half an hour talking to you about what resorts you've gone to and what you've enjoyed. What you haven't liked about resorts, what are your particular interests, to find out, so that when I'm researching, I'm trying to find something that's going to fit into exactly what you're interested in.
And that's what a good agent does, a travel agent. Because you don't know, when you first, especially if you don't do it a lot and you're just starting to travel, you don't know which resorts are, again, the pictures, they say they tell us that, a lot, but they don't tell everything. So it's important that it's always better if you're dealing with an agent.
Well, you get an objective view. I have no benefit in recommending resort A to resort B over, to you. I'm going to recommend the one that I think best suits you. So,
I think I'd like to talk about 2 more things, and then if there's anything else you would like to add, I think just overall general prices of, in the industry these days, and maybe talk a little bit about insurance, the importance of having insurance. But in terms of pricing for travel these days, is it up? Is it down? Can you get good deals? Or
the days of shopping around and waiting until the last minute, actually those started to disappear about 4 or 5 years ago. Suppliers have recognized that people will wait until a month before travel and try to get the best deals, and they don't want that. They want their planes full or close to full, way in advance. So what they started to do was to be offering really good deals 5 and 6 months out, so that people would book and fill the planes.
Yeah.
And in fact, for a couple of years, and I think they probably took some losses for this too, but for a couple of years they did not offer special prices at the end. So people who were waiting for that didn't get it.
Oh, okay.
Now what we're seeing now, and I think it's definitely going to be reflected over the next year or so, prices have gone up. Taxes and non-commissionables have gone up. To travel down to Mexico, you're looking at probably $550 to $600 in taxes and service fees is what they call them.
Yes.
So that is driving the price up. Cuba still seems to be maintaining things to a certain degree, so your taxes are a bit less there. But Cuba is a solid 4-star country to visit. If you've been to Mexico and stayed at some of the resorts in Mexico, many people have said that they have compared them and been disappointed when they've gone to Cuba afterwards. So yeah, pricing, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's supply and demand, and are you going to get a better deal if you wait till later? Probably not. And I think prices are rising and are going to stay that way. I've heard rumors from some clients saying that they heard rumors that prices will probably decline as the year goes on. I don't know where they got those rumors. I'm not hearing anything like that at all.
Right. All right, so insurance now. I think a lot of people believe that when they book a trip with using their credit card, that the credit card insurance covers anything that might happen during that trip. Is that the case? Is there a need to buy additional insurance?
That's a hard one to answer, Bruce, because a lot of times, you can have a Manulife policy that is offered through a credit card, but the policy is bare bones. You're not going to get the same coverage as you would get if you bought it through a travel insurance agent. So are you covered for everything? Hard to say. Probably and the only way to know that is to actually compare it. What allowance would you get for luggage replacement? What allowance would you get for daily expenses if you missed your flight, that sort of thing? By and large, and I can only speak it that way, credit card insurance is not going to have the same coverage as regular insurance would have. So are you covered appropriately with credit card insurance? Probably you've got some decent basic coverage. It's all about trip interruption and cancellation. I'm finding with the mainstream insurance companies now, you have to buy within 3 to 7 days to be able to get trip interruption and cancellation. So there's a mix of things, and it's more expensive. There's no question, but it's a better product.
Yeah. I know that. How would someone get a hold of you? Like, is it best by email or telephone or? Well,
I'm available either way, and that's one of the things. I'm a home-based business. Have been on our own, my wife and myself, for 20 years. We're based out of our home. We have an office in our home. You call my office number, you're going to get me.
Yeah.
You email me, you're going to get me.
And what is that number?
It's 902-431-4932. That's the best way by phone. Probably the best way is email, and that's Danny, D-A-N-N-Y, at almontravel.ca, A-L-M-O-N travel.ca. And unless you need something that's in a hurry, you need a flight out in a couple of days' time, a phone call would be needed then. But most people are looking for vacations in 6 months or 8 months, and email is a good way to track things.
Yes.
You're leaving your instructions with me, and I'm responding to you as a result of those instructions. So,
right.
That's good.
Anything else you would like to add before we wrap up?
Well, I think what we're seeing, Bruce, right now, you and I talked just before the presentation started. You had a good experience flying from Halifax to BC with one connection. I was just on the internet reading about a group of 7 who left from Fredericton to go south, missed their connection in Montreal, had a devil of a time trying to get down to destination, lost their transfers as a result of that, and on the way back, their flight was canceled from Montreal to Fredericton. So they had to, go to extreme efforts to be able to get their flight back to Fredericton, and they arrived back a day late. So, I don't say that to discourage people from traveling, but to recognize that we're still in a state where COVID is affecting things.
Yeah.
The airlines, the airports don't have the staff that they had in 2019 and before. And you've got to, if you're going to travel, like right now, you've just got to be prepared for for issues and just go with the flow. I think if you're booking something for 6-8 months down the road, I think it's going to be much better, just because I think where society is going with COVID now, it's more accepted. You go to a grocery store now, 95% of the people are not wearing masks. So once that is recognized and accepted in our society, I think we'll start to normalize considerably.
Yeah. Look, folks, river cruises, destination weddings, Florida, Caribbean, or ocean cruises, Danny's your man. And thank you, Danny, so much for being here today. It's such a pleasure having you as a member of the Spryfield Business Commission. And thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, Bruce, and thank you, audience.